Our next speaker will be Ken Vaughn. He's running for the House of Representatives in the 11th District. Then have Shelby. After that, he's running for National Committee. Great, thanks.
Thanks. Once again, my name is Ken Vaughn. Sorry I'm not dressed as nicely. I was out knocking doors this morning. Can someone get me a glass of water, maybe? I was out knocking doors this morning, and in that light, I really think we need to give a lot of thanks and appreciation to these other candidates here. I'm lucky enough to be right here in the 11th District, well, just down the street in the 11th District. I was able to knock doors this morning. I'm able to go back out and knock doors this afternoon. These other candidates, they took hours to drive here today. That's a testament of how much they want your support, because they really are interested in this group. And please understand, please consider that when you're talking about giving money. Thank you. When you're thinking about giving money, when you're thinking about supporting them and everything else. They are truly dedicated. With that said, why am I running? As many of you know, when I started out, I too was running against an incumbent Republican. I was running in the 10th District against Frank Wolf. Fortune came my way. I ended up being redistricted. Now I'm in the 11th District. So now I have the luxury of running against Democrat Gerry Connolly, which obviously we all agree we need to get rid of. Nonetheless, I still have a primary 17 days away, just like these other candidates. And I'm sad to say, my contrast is just as great, and perhaps even more so. The candidate I'm running against, we just came out this week in one of the local blogs that he, in 2010, not only did he not vote in the election, an election that Keith Finian lost by 981 votes, he was one of the one votes that didn't vote. He actually found the time to spend 2 weeks down in Mississippi helping out a Democrat. This is a Democrat running in the Republican Party. We have to beat this guy. Okay, so, but why am I running? What motivated me to begin with? Well, I'm an engineer. I did not go to school to become a politician. I'm an engineer, went back to school, got a master's degree in engineering, had a career in engineering, started my own firm in engineering, and in 2009, my twin sons graduated high school. The year, while we're preparing them for their future in college and everything, we see the deficit go from $400 billion to $1.4 trillion. We saw a Republican president come out and say, we're going to abandon free market principles. And I said, what happened to my Republican Party? This is not a party that I recognize anymore. I've given up on Democrats already, but now I'm losing the Republican Party. We have to do something. And I started getting involved. And even then, though, I said, I'm not necessarily the one to run. Who else can I support? And I went around, supported other people, helped out Keith Finian. But ultimately, even then, I started looking around and saying, well, who is out there saying we're going to get this debt under control? I believe not only do we have to get the debt deficits down, not only do we have to balance the budget, I believe we have a moral obligation to eliminate the debt. Just like Thomas Jefferson said, we don't have the right to spend our children's money. Let's pay the debt back. And I don't see anyone in Congress using that sort of rhetoric. I see Paul Ryan out there, and as E.W. Jackson mentioned, Paul Ryan, 25, actually it's about 28 years to balance the budget. How is that not passing our debt on to our kids? So I said, fine. You know what? I'll stand up and I'll make the case. And initially that was against Wolf. I'm glad now it's against Connolly. It greatly improves my chances. And that is a winnable election. A couple other key points that have been brought up here today. NDAA, absolutely it needs to go. The indefinite detention is absolutely unconstitutional. When my opponent was asked about that, his response was, well, this is a bill that funded the military. We had to vote for that. Now, bear in mind how extreme this position is. He wasn't in Congress voting for the bill. He could have very easily simply answered the question, no, I don't like the indefinite detention portion of it. He actually said he would have voted for the bill. oh, but indefinite detention isn't that big of an issue. Yeah, it is. My liberty is a very big issue. And quite frankly, why are we funding our military for if they're not going to be protecting our freedoms? So yeah, absolutely, you should vote no on things like that. So, and finally, with the debt, my opponent has attacked me on defense cuts specifically. We need to cut the defense budget. As was pointed out, there are places to cut. I would start by the fact that we went over to the Middle East with good cause. We were attacked on 9/11. George Bush, one thing he did do very well is he said to the Taliban, turn over bin Laden or we're going to come in and get him and we're going to throw you out. Well, we threw the Taliban out. We've gotten bin Laden out. We've achieved our stated objective. Why are we over there now? I see perhaps some reasons to be over there, but we don't have a stated objective. And if we don't have a stated objective, we're never going to win. How do you declare victory now? We have victory in our hands, so let's declare it. Let's come home. With a very stern warning to anyone thinking about attacking us again. Saying, if you attack us again, we will be back, and we will take care of business much more quickly. But where we are right now as a country, we can't afford it. And we don't have public opinion on our side to stay over there longer. What will happen is we will become sitting ducks over there, waiting for the next Beirut, where our military will be hit again, and then our country becomes truly divided. Do we come home? In which case it looks like we're retreating? Or do we stay there and increase the military effort again and have back home say, well, look, this is just getting worse on our hand. We're in a catch-22 at that point. We need to make sure we don't end up in that position, which is why we need to come home now. That saves us about $100 billion a year, which puts our country in a much stronger position so that if we do need to go back over there, we have the financial fortitude to do it. So, I am very strong in the military. I just think we need to invest our money wisely. So, with that said, I'm not going to take up a lot more of your time. I do want to emphasize that this is a very winnable race. Both in the primary, as near as I can tell, I have better name recognition right now. I have better, my message is selling better. And I have the key issues that are motivating people to come out my side. Plus, information like this came up this week about my opponent. It's going to really hurt. So I think I will win the primary. I'm not taking anything for granted though, because after all, it is a primary, an open primary. There's nothing on the Democrat side, so we very easily could be rated by Democrats. So we do need to make sure that we do everything possible, which is why I'm still out knocking doors, getting our voters to the polls on June 12th. Even then though, into the November, I think we have a very good chance of winning. Why? So I think our message is the message of middle America. Yes, we'll get the Republicans, but when I go out door to door, people understand these issues. They're concerned about the debt. They're concerned about where we are militarily. They're concerned about our liberties. In fact, two of those issues are things that Obama got elected on. Getting us out of the Middle East and restoring our liberty. And he hasn't done either. In fact, he's made both worse. So these are issues that we didn't get a lot of Democrats. I talked to a Democrat this morning who I was able to basically point out those issues to. And he's like, you know what? If you're talking about defense cuts, you're talking about the debt seriously, then yeah, I can come around and support you. We can win this race, especially against someone like Connolly, who is so liberal and so amazingly partisan. People are tired of the bickering in Washington. They're looking for someone who's going to take a practical approach. Who better provide that practical approach than an engineer who's never been in politics before, but looking for real change. So, make sure you remember these other candidates here. I want to make sure we make the Republican Liberty Caucus a strong caucus and give us some name recognition by actually getting the membership in Congress itself and reaching out and strengthening this group. So, any questions?
I'll ask the same question I asked before.
Okay.
lightning round. It doesn't need the 5-minute answer.
Sure.
But what are your positions on immigration, on war on drugs, and on gay marriage?
Okay. Immigration, we need to enforce our laws. I grew up down in Texas. You know, when I was probably in junior high school, I started meeting people and realizing that, yeah, okay, they came in illegally, but they were literally fleeing for their lives. Now, I believe America needs to be a land of refuge, but we absolutely must enforce our laws. They're fleeing countries that are violent. They're fleeing countries that are corrupt. What do? They come here illegally. They get a Social Security card illegally. They get a job illegally. All they see is corruption here. We're just wealthier, corrupt people, which probably makes us even more corrupt in their minds. Okay? We need to enforce our laws. If our laws are incorrect, and I think they do need to be changed, let's have that discussion. But as long as we avoid that discussion and allow us just with a wink and a nod to allow all this to occur, we're making matters a lot worse. Now, in order to do that, I think we absolutely have to start decreasing all the giveaways we did for immigrants. And make sure that they're coming in here for the right reasons. We need to make sure we keep out the criminals. We make sure we keep out the people who are just trying to establish a foothold here. We want people that are coming here for the land of opportunity. We want people who are willing to come here and work hard. That's what's always made America great. And those are the people we should be encouraging. And along with that, we should be making sure that we identify people around the world that are the brains and make sure we try to get them. Because that's what's made the country great as well. In particular, during World War II, we got a lot of really smart people from Germany and Japan and other places that came over here and really helped out America a great deal. So immigrants are great. We have to make sure it's legal and properly handled. Drugs, absolutely, I would give essentially the same response as Chief Jackson did. As long as you keep it to marijuana, I have no problem with removing all of the legal barriers at the federal level. If states want to do something, I think that's within their rights. And I think an awful lot of them would do things like California has done with medical marijuana and other things. I am a little bit concerned about going further than that into other drugs. Ideally, I think it would be nice to, but in practice, until we eliminate a lot of that social safety net, there's real problems there. One of the things I think we do need to do as we move in that direction is minimum drug test recipients of those sorts of government programs. And that's a slippery slope as well. What you really want is to eliminate the social programs altogether, put it over into charity. Third one, gay marriage. Gay marriage, I look at it as, even when I was growing up, it kind of stunned me when I found out that if you wanted to get married, you had to go to the government and get a marriage license. I was like, marriage is between a man and woman and their God. Well, where does the government come into it? And I still feel that way. I mean, people will point out various things, but virtually every issue they point out can be handled through a separate legal contract. And an awful lot of the issues, the government shouldn't be involved in at all. The tax issue, why is there any different? Benefits, healthcare benefits. Why is it a benefit difference at all? Because our government has gotten involved in ways it shouldn't have to encourage employers to give out insurance, rather than keeping the consumer and the user of healthcare directly involved in that marketplace directly. There are ways to do that that still meet all of our social needs and everything else without corrupting the system that says, well, now the government gets to approve who's married and who's not. Now, to me, it's between a man and a woman, my God. But I don't think I have the right to dictate to someone else what their God believes. So I think the government should stay out of it. Anything else? Right?